UFC 295, Prochazka versus Pereira just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card and my overall event recap as well, starting straight away with the early prelim opener of Denis Buzukja versus Jamall Emmers. I missed this fight, but I went back and watched it in between other fights. Jamall Emmers puts him away really early. In round one, no problemo. Jamall Emmers looked really good, landing good shots at range to begin with, and then all of a sudden he steps through and lands a clean right hand straight on the chin of Denis Buzukja, putting him away, finishing him off with ground and pound afterwards. Jamall Emmers gets a first round TKO in the best performance he's ever had in his career. I always think this guy's very underrated, and I think he does have a bit of a future, so we'll see what he does at featherweight next. Maybe a Nate Landwehr matchup, maybe one of those types of matchups, who knows. We move on. Up the card, Joshua Van versus Kevin Borjas. I went with Joshua Van, and Joshua Van impressed me massively. This is another fight I watched back afterwards. What a fight. This was fight of the night all the way up until Borshchev versus Sadykhov, which we'll get to in a second. But Joshua Van's body shots, they got to be talked about here. That was the difference maker in this fight. I said he would chop to the body and go to the legs in this fight and win 29-28. He swept the board in this fight. Round one was close, but round 2 and 3, the pressure. Borjas was landing good shots, don't get me wrong, and stinging him with jabs, but Van kept his chin tucked, forehead first, walked down Borjas and ripped him to the body, went to the head as well, went to the legs. The body shots are really the story of this fight, though, and the pressure that he kept coming with. Amazing performance by Joshua Van. We got a flyweight prospect to watch out for. We move on up the card to another fight, John Castaneda versus Kang Ko. This was just a fight where John Castaneda was landing the better shots out of the two of them. Kang might have got himself the first round. It was a very competitive round, but in round 2 and 3, we really started to see Castaneda land the better shots. Pressure was working for him, was going to the body well in his fight too, not just Joshua Van, him as well. Going to the legs now and again was working for him. His shots to the head, he was just being more patient of a boxer out of the two of them. And you could see that Kang Ko was just being a little bit more jittery than John Castaneda was, who was being a little bit more patient. Plus, the other difference in this fight was, although the takedown defense of Kang Ko was good, John Castaneda kept taking him down, dragging him down to the canvas, especially in round 3 and round 2. That really does change the fight and the energy levels that Kang had. And Castaneda just had more pop in his shots in rounds 2 and 3 and won the fight because of it. Amazing performance, good decision win over Kang Ko, who has got a bit of a streak putting together, so he's pretty good. We move on. Jared Gordon versus Mark Madsen. You'd have to be a moron to pick Mark Madsen to win this fight. He's awful. Great knees in the clinch from Mark Madsen, though. That's something he did very well in this fight, and it's something that he has done well in all of his fights. That is the main thing you've got to watch out for Mark Madsen. He gets the single collar, throws knees to the body, and that's what he does. He locks you in that position. He's too strong to let you out of it, and he just starts ripping knees to the body and punches to the face. Jared Gordon was striking the better of them at range, because Mark Madsen's awful at striking at range. Mark Madsen can't wrestle. I know he's an Olympian, but we've seen no evidence of his good wrestling so far in his career. Couldn't do anything to Clay Guida, for example. Nearly lost a fight there. Was a split decision. Arguably could have gone to Clay Guida. But Mark Madsen, good knees to the body, but Jared Gordon just kept catching him. Hurt him at one point. Hurt him before he actually got finished, by the way, which does need to be noted. He stung Mark Madsen and had him a little bit jittery at one moment, and then finished him off against the cage with a tight right hook. Looked like a delayed reaction. It looked like Mark Madsen just got rocked and freaked out and went, end it, like that on the ground. I don't think he really got knocked down. I think he just got really badly rocked to where he couldn't see anything and just bailed for the canvas. Probably is the likely scenario there. If I had to guess, that's what would have happened. Jared Gordon tells everyone about what drugs he's done in his past and puts his name out there a little bit. I don't mind the Paddy Pimblett rematch at some point. I think Jared Gordon should get a big name fight for himself in the lightweight division. Maybe just quickly turn around him and Benoit Saint-Denis. And I don't think he beats Benoit though, so maybe never mind. But I do like this idea for a potential Paddy Pimblett rematch. I want to see it again. I don't mind it if Paddy even beats Tony Ferguson if they do the rematch with Jared Gordon. There's story there. There's hype. I don't think I'll be happy with Pimblett's career no matter what he achieves if we just brush over that fight with Jared Gordon like it never happened. I want to see the rematch. Especially if Pimlet ends up losing, that's a perfect avenue for a rematch for him. Big fight, pay Jared Gordon a bit of money for it. That'd be good. We move on to the prelims. Nazim Sadykhov versus Viacheslav Borshchev. Nazim Sadykhov channeled his inner Ilya Topuria for this matchup. If you know, you know. If you watch this fight, you know what I'm talking about, dude. He became Ilya Topuria in this fight. Okay? And he nearly finished Viacheslav Borshchev. I'm so glad they got a fight of the night bonus for this, because I've always been an advocate that people that fight to a draw should get 75% of their money rather than 50, because it isn't a loss. They both put on a great show. Wars always have a 10-8 or a point deduction. Mainly, most of the time, 90% of the time, draws have a 10-8 round in there, so it's always guaranteed fun. So I think they should earn more money for it than a loss. Either way, they both got 50k, made some bank, put on an amazing fight. Round 1, Borshchev's just better than Nazim Sadykhov at stand-up. Nazim Sadykhov was wrestling now and again, but Borshchev was working his way back up. He's improved his wrestling 100%. Like, Borshchev was working back up. Think about McKinney. On the ground, crying like a bitch after Nazim ended up on top for 1 second outside of the first round. Viacheslav Borshchev is not even a wrestler like McKinney is. He kept popping back up. Great takedown defense from him. Great ability to get up, back up to his feet. But was doing good in round 1. Chopping at the low kick. Big for him. Nazim felt that 100% in that fight. That's probably the most hurt thing about him right now, is his leg. Body shots from Borshchev were nasty as well. Ripping him upstairs with some good combos. Nazim was single shotting. Viacheslav was multiple shot voluming on Sadykhov. Round 2, Sadykhov rocks him with a left hand behind the ear. Head kick follow-up. Down goes Borshchev. Somehow survives. Gets wailed on the ground for a solid 5-10 seconds. This is what I'm talking about, how like they should have let Jiri get wailed on a bit more. You know what I mean? It's a title fight. I don't have a problem with a stoppage in Jiri versus Pereira. I'll get to that again. But at the end of the day, they're stopping early. They're giving early prelim guys more of a chance to fight back than title fighters. That's the most annoying thing about this whole stoppage culture that we have in the UFC. If it's going to be early or going to be safe stoppages, do it all the way. I'm sick of seeing these early prelim guys get every chance. But either way, Borshchev comes back in the 3rd round, starts whipping up on Sadykhov again to a 10-9 round. I think a draw is absolutely correct. In fact, round 2 might not have been a 10-8. You know what I mean? That was the argument. Like, is it a 10-8 or not? That's the only way you could have scored that fight. 2 Borshchev or 2 a draw, in my opinion. I think it was a 10-8 round. I think we should give out 10-8s a bit more often if there is a clear dominant winner who's put someone in a fight-ending position with a knockdown. Not really submission the same way, but with knockdowns. We move on. Mateusz Rebecki versus Roosevelt Roberts. Mateusz Rebecki whooped him out badly. This was always going to happen. Now, Roosevelt Roberts is dangerous and tall and lanky for the division, and he's got some pop in his hands, and he's got tidy hands. Like, he is a dangerous guy. Don't let this be the be-all, end-all judge of Roosevelt Roberts. But at the end of the day, Mateusz Rebecki is a force of nature in that division. Short, stocky, strong, threw a couple inside low kicks on the feet, got the takedown, took Roosevelt Roberts for a ride, dominated him on the ground, eventually almost fell off the top of Roosevelt Roberts, but used it to get into an armbar position. Latches up the armbar. Roosevelt Roberts verbally taps to the referee because his hands are trapped. Clean work from Mateusz Rebecki. Clean win. Calls for top contenders at lightweight. I like the idea of that. Maybe even a Matt Frevola. I know he just fell out the rankings, but I don't think Rebecki's quite ready. He has fought a bunch of cans so far, other than Loic Radzhabov, who hadn't really did much in the UFC by that time. Rebecki, I say go to Poland, man. You have the talent for it. You have the European talent level. Let's do an event in Poland. Jan Blachowicz, regardless of what happens in his fight with Ricci, do a fight between him and Jiri. UFC, Poland card, fight night card, headliner, fight night, massive event. Gamrot on there, Rebecki on there, Prachnio on there. Bunch of fighters can go on there. Karolina Kowalkiewicz can go on there. You know the dealio. Tybura's Polish. Come on. We move on. Up the card. Tabatha Ricci versus Lupita Godinez. 30-27 Tabatha Ricci. I just remembered this and I want to mention it now. 30-27 Tabatha Ricci might be the worst scorecard I've ever seen in my fucking life. Who gave her round 1 where she did get knocked down? I know they aren't counting it as an official knockdown. She got punched on the face and sat on her ass. Great ass. She got punched in her face and sat on her great ass. She did. And she clearly lost round 1. And in my opinion, clearly lost round 3. Round 2 was closer, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly. Lupita Godinez landed the better shots, did more damage. I think she arguably could have lost round 2, maybe. Maybe that's the round where she arguably could have lost it. But 2-1 Lupita Godinez at a bare minimum based on the first and third round, in my opinion. Maybe the first and second, I can't quite remember. But 30-27 Tabatha Ricci, in my opinion, is a disgraceful scorecard. Lupita Godinez had better hands the whole night. That was the story of the fight. Great takedown defense, wicked hands, way more power in her punches, and that's where she ended up winning this fight with Tabatha Ricci. Great ass. We move on. Up the card, Steve Erceg versus Alessandro Costa. Steve Erceg gets it done, but with difficulty. In the first round, I thought, dude, he's very hittable. And I did say my prediction for this fight was 29-28 Steve Erceg. He's going to get hurt, and he's going to get wobbled in one of the rounds. I said he would get dropped. He didn't get dropped, but he did get really badly hurt. Round 1, Steve Erceg doing his thing at range, picking apart Alessandro Costa, landing low kicks, landed a shot that wobbled Costa for a second and then went in for a finish and didn't end up getting it because he got tagged back. Costa's dangerous with the hands when you come rushing in. And Erceg found that out in round 2. He got wobbled twice in round 2. Cracked on the feet once, but recovered and stayed good and sharp. Towards the end of round 2, he got really badly wobbled to the canvas, not dropped. And then Costa ended up on top, didn't end up getting much out of it. Round 3, Erceg literally had to resort to holding him up against a cage and trying to drag him down into wrestling positions and knee him to the body and punch him to the face. Smart move from Steve Erceg, but Costa showed he was dangerous and showed why I said he was a live underdog in this fight, even though the odds were crazy in favor of Steve Erceg. Erceg's good. Maybe a bit more time to warm up against these other guys. Maybe just rebook the Matt Schnell fight before we start looking at the Manel Caps of the division, because that's different level striking. We move on. Up the card. 2, Diego Lopez versus Pat Sabatini. I'm just going to say it right now. The odds makers had Diego Lopez as an underdog. I have no idea why they had him as an underdog. I told people, I can literally go back on Twitter. They had him as a wider underdog than he ended up being as well, by the way. I made a post on Twitter a while ago. Wasn't that long ago. But it was a thing that I said about Diego Lopez is an underdog right now for his fight with Pat Sabatini. Put all your money on Diego Lopez against Pat. He's a monster, Diego Lopez. You have to put money on him. Like I did it here, October 24th. Just a heads up, if any people want to make some money on Diego Lopez is currently an underdog against Pat Sabatini. Get betting soon before immediately it changes once they realize their mistake. He finishes Pat Sabatini in the first round. Sabatini was looking all right, moving well, but Lopez was the more dangerous one. Rocked Pat Sabatini with a right hook behind the ear. Had him wobbled and running away from him a bit. Swarmed for a finish. Put him away. Wicked stuff from Diego Lopez. He's a problem in the featherweight division and needs a top-level opponent, in my opinion. And I can't wait to see that Movsar Evloev rematch when he has a full camp because he nearly beat him on short notice. We move on. Up the card. Matt Frevola versus Benoit Saint-Denis. I went against Benoit again. He's going to put me in an Instagram compilation. I thought Matt Frevola would catch Benoit being a bit aggressive up against a cage. And to be fair, it was looking like that could be a possibility because the way Benoit was throwing some punches at times, I was thinking, hang on a second. He's got good body kicks here, but he's being a bit risky up against a cage. But what ended up happening was Matt Frevola was stopping his aggression with takedowns. People are saying, he got taken down as if it's a bad thing. I don't mind that. They were good takedowns. They were really good takedowns from Matt Frevola. And one of them, Benoit pulled a guillotine that failed. Classic Frenchman. You know what I mean? Going for the guillotine. Benoit Saint-Denis. The best thing I saw in this fight, he got the head kick KO. Wicked, by the way. Very Peter Yan, Uriah Faber-ish with the off the break. One guy's looking away a bit. Not the same angle, but the same type of kick with the way it landed, like with the toe to the temple rather than a flush shin like Leon Edwards' was. But Benoit lands the head kick, but he got back up from the takedowns, and he did the same thing against Thiago Moises. He gets the butterfly hook, and he just scrambles his way up and sweeps his opponent onto bottom position. That's the most impressive thing about Benoit Saint-Denis. Take him down, he will sweep his way back up. Really underrated thing to be able to do against these top lightweights. Frevola's no joke. He's ginger as well. And Benoit still beat him. You know what I mean? Chad, the only alpha Frenchman left on earth. Amazing win from Benoit Saint-Denis. Prove me wrong. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. I went with Mackenzie Dern to get a takedown and sub Jessica Andrade. She did get the head and arm throw at the first round, but she ended up not establishing position with it. And then after that, Sean Strickland was right about women's MMA, is all I'm going to say. Jessica Andrade knocked her down 4 times. First one wasn't really a knockdown because she didn't get hit, so I don't know why they've counted that, but it was 3 times. Maybe they did count it. Maybe they didn't count it and it was still 4. I can't even remember how many times she got knocked down, but Mackenzie Dern can't throw a punch, and eventually you find this out in a women's fighter's career, even though they've been doing the sport for how long now, Mackenzie Dern? Let's look it up. Nice ass, by the way. We go to Tapology. We find out that Mackenzie Dern has been competing in MMA since 2016. That's 3 years shy of a decade. That's 7 years of professional MMA experience, let alone the fact that she was definitely training for a few years before she went pro. Still can't throw a punch. Jessica Andrade can throw a punch. That was the difference in this fight. Andrade knocked her down all over the place and finished her off. Really good win from Jessica Andrade. Dern can't throw a punch after 8-9 years of training MMA. Strickland was right. We move on to the co-main event. Sergei Pavlovich versus Tommy Aspinall. Tommy Aspinall. Dude, he gets it done. Tom Aspinall, the UK heavyweight champ of the UFC heavyweight division. Interim belt, yeah, but we know it's going to end up undisputed because either Jones ain't fighting Stipe, or Jones ain't fighting him and he's fighting Stipe, in which case it will become undisputed eventually. Maybe Aspinall will be a backup opponent for that. Or Aspinall fights Stipe now, next, in June or May, in the UK, heavyweight belt on the line to make it undisputed. Jones comes back at the end of the year for the winner, trapping him into fighting Tom Aspinall, in my opinion. I picked Tom Aspinall to win. I said he would get it done with his grappling. He still got it done. He's just quicker than Sergei Pavlovich, and I said that. I was team Sergei Pavlovich when this fight first got made. Then I did my research. What I did for my research was I played them both side by side, and I just watched what the opponent was doing compared to Aspinall and what Sergei was doing compared to Aspinall. Aspinall moves differently to any heavyweight we've ever seen. And, fair enough, Garn moves quite similar, but not as well, in my opinion, offensively. He has the fucking knockout power to shut you off in one punch. Or the ability to drag you down to the canvas and sub you within 10 seconds. The danger factor that comes along with his movement. Movement almost always equals a lack of danger. Dominic Cruz, great example of this. Well, he's going to knock you out cold? He can, but it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Aspinall, it's the movement of Garn with the finishing ability of Ngannou. Dangerous guy Tom Aspinall is. Dangerous hand speed. Let's talk about the fight itself. Round 1 starts. I'm terrified for him because Pavlovich came out with no expression on his face. Lifeless behind the eyes. He's a monster. Aspinall looked like he's feeling the moment, but that helps. It's keep him alert. Round 1, Pavlovich is getting chewed up his legs. He's dodged low kicks from every other heavyweight. Aspinall's too quick. His leg kicks were way faster. I want to say he landed about 4 low kicks, maybe 3. 3 or 4 low kicks on Sergei Pavlovich that were good ones. One of them got a reaction out of Pavlovich because it landed right on his calf as he stepped in, and he sort of winced at it. Then Pavlovich cracked him with a jab. Nasty, like, tight, hooky jab on the chin of Aspinall. Knocked his mouthpiece loose for a second, and Aspinall grabbed it and put it back in. And then here's the difference, and this is where the fight was different than every other Pavlovich fight. Normally when Pavlovich lands that, he comes forward, he lands good shots. First of all, Aspinall's got a hell of a chin to take it, because it landed clean. But as soon as he got hit with it, what did Aspinall do? Did he cover up like a fat loser like every other heavyweight? No. Slip back, head movement to the side, move, and he's circling back out to the center again. Then when Pavlovich came forward again, lean back, move, and he's back out to the center again. Then feint, low kick, feint, rap, 1-2, jab to the body, right hand to the jaw, right to the side of the head, sorry, not the jaw. Wobbled Pavlovich on the feet. It's heavyweight. Pavlovich can get chins too. I know he's a Chad, but it can happen both ways. Aspinall follows up with a right hand, puts him away, finishes him off with a couple hammer fists. Tom Aspinall, the heavyweight champion, interim heavyweight champion of the world out of the UK. 51% English, and you all know it. We move on. If he lost, he would have been Polish. Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. I already broke it down. Prochazka surprised me in terms of how effective he was on the feet in moments, but he also surprised me in the fact that he looked quite rusty out there. He looked quite rusty out there is something that I noticed from Prochazka out there. In the first round, he looked very weird on the feet. I've called this fight perfectly. Pereira went out there, low-kicked Prochazka multiple times, really badly hurt his leg a couple of times, and Prochazka was limping on it very visibly. Then Jiri started landing some shots. Jiri got a takedown on Alex Pereira, spent a lot of time on top, landed a couple of elbows maybe. Don't know who you give the first round to. Pereira arguably did more damage, but Prochazka definitely won the optics of what a fight is to the judges in terms of a close round. But Pereira got back up at the end of round 1 against a cage. That's big for his confidence going into round 2. Round 2, Prochazka is getting Pereira. I want to make that clear, because I know people are going to say domination Pereira. Prochazka is kind of getting to him. He actually wobbled him a little bit at one point and actually stunned him with a shot. Maybe not wobbled, but stunned him to the point where Pereira went, oh God, Jesus, here he comes. You know what I mean? Prochazka started swarming for him, landed a couple of shots, a couple of them whiffed that could have been knockout blows. They ended up in the clinch again. Alex Pereira always had the clinch to go back to. Very smart work. Then Jiri starts getting overconfident on the feet, charging forward. Pereira's still chewing up his leg. Knocked him off his feet with low kicks in the first round. Lands a right hook as Jiri comes in. Jiri's right hand's by his waist coming in against the cage, as I said it would be. And I said the left hook KO in round 2 after chopping up his leg in round 1 and stuffing a takedown and getting back up. Alex Pereira gets it done by left hook KO. Hurts Jiri. Jiri shoots in tenaciously. Nearly has it. Legal elbows and punches to the side of the ear. And down goes Jiri. I think they should have given him more time to recover. Am I saying that he would have survived? No, I think 90% of the time Pereira lands 2 more and we see a justifiable stoppage from the ref, or lands some more shots and puts him away for good. This helps Jiri's chin moving forward. But I am going to say I'm sick and tired of seeing referees on prelim fights let guys fight back with all they've got, and we constantly see these fights on the prelims where guys are all out of it and then they come back in the later rounds. We just saw this with Borshchev against Sadykhov, but then whenever it's a main event, it's time to stop it prematurely all the time and make sure nobody gets hurt. If there's a time and a place, referees in the UFC, to let it go a bit, it's for a world championship, not for an early prelim opener. Start to learn that. That's all I'm going to say. Either all of them are that early and safe, which I don't mind, or you start treating all of them with the respect that they can get maybe a 10% chance of getting back into that fight. All I'm going to say. But Pereira did finish him. Okay stoppage. Not the best, not the worst. TKO for Alex Pereira, 2-weight world champion. Adesanya, what a soy boy. Calling him out on Twitter, roasting him about losing to him. Adesanya's literally the drunk dude at the bar, pointing to Alex Pereira on the TV screen, saying, I beat him once. I beat that guy once. You're that guy now that you said Alex Pereira would be. Soy boy, dog fiddler, toodle pip. See you later. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.